Nanda Devi isn't just a mountain. For the people of India, she's a goddess. For climbers, she's a forbidden symbol of beauty and death. In 1976, a team of American and Indian mountaineers set out to reach her summit. Among them was a young woman named Nanda Devi Answald. She was named after the mountain, and it seemed like her whole life had been leading her to that expedition. This is a story about how someone chasing a dream can lose themselves in the very idea of the mountain. A story of pride, mistakes, and a fatal bond between a name and a destiny. A destiny that, perhaps, the mountain truly claimed. 1949. American climber Willie Answald stands at the foot of Nanda Devi, one of the most unapproachable peaks in the Himalayas. 7,500 meters of pure ice and stone. The mountain is wrapped in mist so thick it feels like she decides who gets to see her. And then, for a moment, the clouds part. Willie freezes. Before him rises a perfect pyramid glowing in the pink light of sunset. The locals call her the Blessed Goddess. They believe that Nanda Devi herself, the protector of the valley, the keeper of souls, lives on that summit. For the people of India, climbing her is a sin. For mountaineers, it's the ultimate dream. Willie isn't a religious man, but something inside him shifts. What he feels isn't just awe, it's something deeper, almost reverence, almost fear. He stands there watching until the light fades completely. And in that darkness, he makes a promise to himself. One day, he'll come back. Years pass. Willie becomes a father. He holds his newborn daughter in his arms, tiny, fragile, and suddenly remembers that mountain, that moment when she first revealed herself to him. And then he does something most people would call strange. He names his daughter Nanda Devi, after the mountain. Not after some distant goddess, but after a real peak that changed his life. He tells his wife it's a name that means beauty, strength, greatness. But there's more to it than that. Something he can't quite put into words, as if he isn't just giving his daughter a name, but tying her destiny to the mountain itself. Nanda grows up among the peaks. Her father takes her hiking when she's barely 6. She learns to walk on stones before she ever walks on pavement. She reads the weather before she reads books. Willie tells her stories of great climbs, of people who went higher than the clouds. And always, at the end of every story, he returns to the same mountain, Nanda Devi. This mountain is special, he tells her. She isn't just tall, she's sacred. And you carry her name. That means something. The girl listens, her eyes fixed on the photos of snow-covered slopes. She doesn't yet understand what those words mean, but she already feels it. Her name isn't a coincidence. It's a sign, a path. By the time she turns 10, Nanda is more experienced than many grown hikers. She knows how to tie knots, pitch a tent in a storm, save her strength on a climb. Her father's friends watch her with amazement. This girl was born for the mountains, they say. And every time, Willie smiles. He knows they're right. But there's one thing few ever notice. Willie has never climbed Nanda Devi herself. He's only seen her from below. The mountain remained his dream, untouched, pure, perfect. And now, that dream bears his daughter's name. Nanda has a brother, Craig. He's 3 years younger, but in the mountains, they're equals. Willie raises them both as climbers from the cradle. The Answald family doesn't live in cities. They drift between base camps, expeditions, mountain villages. Their home is wherever the slopes begin. Craig and Nanda speak a language few people understand. They talk about routes like poetry, argue about climbing techniques like philosophy. For them, the mountain isn't an obstacle. It's a partner, sometimes cruel, but always honest. By the mid-1970s, Nanda is no longer just the daughter of a famous mountaineer. She's a name of her own in climbing circles. At 24, she's already completed dozens of ascents, the granite walls of Yosemite, the glaciers of Alaska, the peaks of the Canadian Rockies. She climbs fast, sure, with a lightness that borders on defiance. Among male climbers, opinions about her are mixed. Some admire her. Others doubt whether a woman can handle real altitude. Nanda doesn't argue. She just climbs higher. And when they're catching their breath at camp, she's already pitching her tent on the ridge. But there's one summit she's never touched, the one that bears her name, Nanda Devi. And for her, it isn't just another peak to conquer. It's something personal, almost intimate. Craig understands this better than anyone. He sees how she stares at photos of the mountain, how she goes quiet whenever someone mentions expeditions in Garhwal. She never talks about it, but he knows. For her, Nanda Devi isn't a mountain. It's a calling. 1975. The two of them sit in a tent after another climb in Colorado. The wind howls outside. A gas lamp flickers inside. Craig unfolds a map of the Himalayas across the floor and points to a tiny dot in northern India. "Let's do it," he says. "Next year, Nanda Devi." Nanda stays silent for a moment, then slowly nods. They both know this won't just be another ascent. It's the closing of a circle that began 24 years ago, when their father gave his daughter the name of a mountain. When Willie hears about their plan, his reaction surprises everyone. He doesn't try to stop them. On the contrary, he wants to join. At 57, he's still strong, still hungry for the heights. And now, he finally has a chance to chase the dream that began back in 1949, at the foot of that same peak. A family expedition. Father, daughter, son. It sounds almost mythical. But mountaineering isn't a fairy tale. There's no room for sentiment, only altitude, cold, and choices that can decide whether you live or die. By the end of 1975, the plan is ready. They'll form a team, apply for a permit. The mountain has been closed to foreigners since 1965, but there's a chance to join a joint Indian-American expedition. They'll train through the winter. And in the summer of 1976, they'll go. Nanda feels a strange stirring inside her. Not fear, not excitement. Something in between. As if she's finally heading toward the place she was meant to reach all along. Spring 1976. In Washington, a team of 13 gathers. This isn't just a group of climbers. It's a mix of experience, ambition, and quiet conflict. The American contingent is led by Adams Carter, a legend of mountaineering, a man who was climbing in the Himalayas even before the Second World War. He's 72 now, but insists that his final expedition must mean something. Beside him is John Roskelley, 33, tough, precise, one of the strongest climbers in America. But he has his own view of things. At serious altitude, there's no room for experiments, and certainly no room for women. When Nanda suggests bringing her friend Marty Howie, a skilled and seasoned rock climber, Roskelley pushes back hard. "This isn't a mountain picnic," he says during the meeting. "This is the death zone. Only the strongest survive up there." Nanda meets his stare and answers calmly. "Marty climbs better than half the people in this room. If you're afraid she'll move faster than you, just say so." The tension in the room is thick enough to cut. Carter steps in, trying to ease things over. In the end, Marty stays on the team, but the unease lingers. The Indian side sends its own representatives, Army climbers and liaison officers. Officially, it's a joint expedition. In reality, it's two teams speaking different languages. The Indians want to control the route. The Americans want to do things their own way. Then comes the real argument: how to climb the mountain. The traditional approach means miles of fixed ropes, a chain of camps, slow but steady acclimatization. It's heavy and exhausting, but safe. The alpine style is the opposite: light, fast, minimal gear, risky but elegant. Willie and his friend Peter Lev are all for the light approach. They're still young at heart, believers in speed and instinct. Carter shakes his head. "In my day," he says, "we built our camps and went step by step. That's how you stay alive." Roskelley sides with Carter, but for different reasons. He doesn't believe in improvisation. For him, climbing is math. Calculate, prepare, eliminate chance. Weeks of preparation turn into a web of compromises. Everyone's pulling in their own direction. Nanda tries to stay out of the politics, but she can't. Her very name makes her a symbol. She's not just part of the team, she's the reason it exists at all. In the end, they settle on a hybrid plan. They'll set up base camps, but make the final push in alpine style, light and fast. Everyone agrees, at least on paper, but each carries private doubts. June 1976. The team flies to Delhi, then drives by jeep to the village of Lada, the last settlement before the valley. Locals come out to watch the foreigners. The elders shake their heads at the sight of women among them. One old man approaches Nanda and studies her face for a long moment. "You bear her name?" he asks through the interpreter. Nanda nods. The old man sighs. "Then she will know you." Base camp sits at an altitude of about 3,600 meters. The tents rest on a rocky moraine, surrounded by frozen silence. The air here is already different. Thin, sharp, forcing everyone to breathe faster. But it's not just the lack of oxygen. The mood in the team is thinning too. The first days go to setting up camp and acclimatization climbs. Porters haul the gear, climbers scout the routes. Everything seems to run by the book, but in the evenings when they gather around the fire, the talk drifts. And it's not about ropes or weather anymore. Willie Answald and Peter Lev keep coming back to the idea of an Alpine-style ascent. "We're wasting too much time down here," Lev says. "We should move fast while the weather holds, set up one high camp and go straight for the top." Carter listens, then slowly shakes his head. "You're forgetting where we are. This isn't the Alps. A mistake here costs lives. We need safety, backup camps, ropes, time to rest." Ross Kelly stays silent, but his silence weighs heavy. He doesn't take a side. He just glances at Nanda and Marty, and that look says it all. "You're slowing us down." Nanda feels it. She tries to prove she can keep the pace, carries the heaviest packs, leads the scouting climbs. But now, every step she takes feels watched, measured, judged. On the third day, Carter calls everyone together. "I want to remind you why we're here," he says. "This isn't a race. It's not a competition. We've come to a sacred mountain. For the people who live here, Nanda Devi isn't just rock and ice, she's a symbol, and we should treat her with respect." Peter Lev scoffs. "Adams, you're romanticizing it. We're climbers. Our job is the summit. Everything else is philosophy." Carter doesn't answer, but disappointment flickers in his eyes. He can see it now. The expedition is splitting into camps. Some want to go fast and bold, others prefer slow and careful, and a few are starting to wonder why they're even here at all. The Indian officers stand apart, watching the Americans with polite confusion. For them, it's a duty. Escort the foreigners, make sure the rules are followed. They don't share the passion or the restlessness. That evening, Willie sits alone at the edge of camp. He stares toward the peak, hidden behind clouds, but he knows she's there. Craig comes over and sits beside him. "You worried?" his son asks. Willie stays quiet for a while, then says softly, "I'm worried we're not ready. Not technically. As a team." Craig nods. He feels it too. The crack that started back in Washington is widening, and the worst part, it's invisible. No open fights, no shouting, just mistrust, doubt. The quiet sense that everyone here is on their own. The next morning, the team sets out on their first high climb. The sky is clear. The snow glitters under the sun. Everything looks perfect, but those who know the mountains understand. Perfection up here is always an illusion. The porters from the village of Lada don't leave right after delivering the supplies. They linger at the edge of base camp, watching the team, and watching Nanda most of all. When she walks by, the head porter folds his hands in greeting. Not the way one greets a tourist, but the way one greets someone significant. The interpreter explains to the Americans, they see her as a sign. The girl carries the name of the goddess. To them, that's not a coincidence. Someone laughs, calls it superstition. But the porters don't laugh. Their faces stay solemn. They know these mountains in a way outsiders never will. Before heading back, one of them approaches Nanda. He looks into her eyes for a long time, then says something quietly in Garhwali. The interpreter hesitates. Nanda asks, "What did he say?" "He asked the mountain to let you go," the interpreter answers. "He said you look too much like her." Nanda smiles, but the smile feels thin, because deep down, she feels the same. From the very first day near the mountain, there's been something strange. Not fear, not excitement, but recognition. As she climbs, every rock feels familiar, every curve of the glacier, as if she's seen it before. Maybe in dreams, maybe somewhere beyond memory. She doesn't believe in mysticism, but there's no rational way to explain it either. At night, when the others are asleep, Nanda steps outside her tent and stands beneath the stars. She listens to the wind, not just a rush of air, but something alive, carrying voices. A whisper she can't quite understand in words, but somehow feels she already knows. Craig notices the change in her. "You've been acting strange these past few days," he says one evening. "You okay?" Nanda nods, but doesn't explain. How could she? How do you tell someone that the mountain doesn't feel like a challenge? It feels like home? That being here isn't discovery, it's return. Not to where she's been before, but to where she's always meant to be. At 4,500 meters, the team stops to rest. They set up an intermediate camp, cook dinner on gas stoves. The Indian officers sit apart, brewing their own tea. One of them, a young lieutenant named Kumar, walks over to Nanda, holding a steaming cup. "Is it true you were named after this mountain?" he asks. "Yes," she says. Kumar thinks for a moment. "In our villages, they say names have power, especially the names of mountains. When a child is named after a peak, the bond never breaks. The mountain remembers." Nanda looks at him, unsure what to say. Kumar smiles. "Maybe it's just a legend, but up here, legends have a way of turning real." That same night, far below, the porters who have returned to the valley sit around a fire in the village. They talk about the girl who bears the goddess's name, and the elder says a line the others will remember. She belongs to Nanda Devi. The mountain has recognized her own. No one from the expedition hears those words, but in these mountains, words have weight, even the ones spoken far away. At about 5,400 meters, Marty Howie starts to fall behind. At first, it's barely noticeable. Her pace slows just a little, her brakes a bit longer. Then it becomes clear. She's gasping for air, struggling to breathe, like the air itself isn't enough to fill her lungs. Dr. Jim States, the only medic on the team, sees it right away. This isn't fatigue, it's altitude sickness. He checks her pulse, looks into her eyes, listens to her breathing. The diagnosis is certain: early-stage pulmonary edema. If they don't get her down, it'll only get worse. "She needs to descend now," States says at the evening meeting. Ross Kelly reacts first. "I knew it. Women can't handle this altitude. Should have listened to me back in Washington." Nanda snaps. "This isn't about women. Altitude sickness hits anyone. You could be next." Ross Kelly smirks, but doesn't answer. Willie steps in, trying to calm things down. "Let's give her a day to acclimate. Maybe it'll pass." States shakes his head. "Willie, I'm a doctor. I'm telling you, if she stays, she dies." End of discussion. Silence. Everyone knows he's right, but no one wants to admit they're losing a member of the team. Not now, with less than 2,000 meters to the summit. Marty sits in the corner of the tent, pale, her lips blue. She tries to sound steady, but her voice trembles. "I can do this. Just give me one more day." States kneels beside her. "Marty, you can't. Your body's shutting down. This isn't weakness, it's biology. The only way out is down." She closes her eyes. Tears roll down her cheeks, but she doesn't sob. Just silence. Nanda comes over, hugs her, says nothing. There's nothing to say. The next day they call for a helicopter. It comes from the valley and lands on a flat patch just below camp. They load Marty inside. Through the window, she looks back at the team. One last glance at the mountain she'll never climb. The helicopter lifts off, turns, and disappears behind the ridge. The team stands watching. No one speaks. But everyone's thinking something. Ross Kelly thinks, "I was right. We shouldn't have brought them." Nanda thinks, "That could have been me." Willie thinks, "We're losing people before the summit. That's a bad sign." Carter thinks, "The first crack. I wonder who's next." That evening, the team gathers around the fire. The air feels heavy. Everyone senses it. Something's broken. Not the gear, the spirit. Marty wasn't just a climber. She was part of an idea. Proof that women could stand equal on the mountain. Now that idea rests on Nanda's shoulders alone. And the weight of it is unbearable. After Marty's evacuation, Dr. States holds Nanda back by the medical tent. He speaks quietly, so no one else can hear. "We need to talk about your hernia." Nanda tenses up. She knew this conversation was coming. Before the expedition, doctors had diagnosed her with a small inguinal hernia. Not dangerous yet, but one that required surgery. The doctors back in the States told her to postpone the climb. She ignored them. "I'm fine," she says. "It's not a big deal." States looks at her the way doctors do when they see more than their patients admit. At this altitude, everything gets worse. Pressure, strain, the coughing from the dry air, any of it could make things serious. And if it gets strangulated, that's emergency surgery, which we can't do here. Nanda nods, but makes no promises. States sighs. "If you feel sharp pain, you tell me right away. Don't try to be a hero." She steps out of the tent and immediately catches Ross Kelly's gaze. He's standing nearby, watching. He doesn't say a word, but his silence says enough. He's heard, or guessed. And now he knows. The last woman left on the team has a problem. Nanda feels anger rise inside her. Not at Ross Kelly, at the situation. At the fact that every move she makes is under a microscope now. Marty's gone, and suddenly any weakness from Nanda becomes proof that women don't belong on these heights. She makes her choice. Stay silent, push through, reach the summit no matter what. Because if she gives up, it won't just be her failure. It'll be a setback for every woman who comes after her. In the days that follow, Nanda works at her limit. She hauls gear, cuts routes, climbs beside the strongest of them. The pain in her side keeps coming back. Dull, constant, grinding. She ignores it, pops painkillers in secret, wraps her waist tight with an elastic bandage. Willie notices something's off. One evening, he finds her sitting alone on the edge of camp. "You okay?" he asks. "I'm fine," she says, short and flat. Willie says nothing. He knows his daughter, knows when she's lying, but he doesn't push, because he's afraid of what she might say. He can see her stubbornness, her pride, and he knows she won't stop, even if it costs her everything. He wants to tell her, "Go down. The mountain's not going anywhere. Come back next year, healthy, strong." But the words don't come, because he's the one who gave her that name. He's the one who brought her here. How can he ask her to turn back now? Willie looks toward the summit, hidden in clouds, and feels a chill of fear, not for himself, for her. He suddenly understands. The mountain that once felt like a blessing might just be a curse. But to say that out loud would mean admitting a mistake he made 20 years ago. So, he says nothing. At 6,100 meters, the team gathers again for a meeting. The question is the same as before. How do they move on from here? The classic route would mean setting up 2 more intermediate camps. The Alpine style would be a fast push to the summit with minimal gear. Peter Lave argues for the lighter option. "We're wasting too much time. The weather window is narrow. We need to go while we still have a chance." Carter pushes back. "That's reckless. We don't know what's waiting up there. Without backup camps, we have no safety net." Willie sides with Lev. Ross Kelly stays silent. He's tired of arguing. In the end, they reach a compromise. 1 high camp at 6,700 meters, then they move light and fast. Decision made. But no one looks convinced. By morning, the sky changes. At dawn, it was clear, almost transparent. By midday, clouds begin rolling in from the north, heavy, dark, and low. The temperature drops instantly. The wind picks up. Peter Lev walks over to Willie. "We need to go down. This isn't just bad weather, it's a storm." Willie looks toward the summit, still visible through the haze. "We've got time. Let's haul 1 more load, then we'll head back." Lev shakes his head. "Willie, I mean it. I see the signs. This is dangerous." But Willie isn't listening anymore. He gives the order to move. A part of the team stays behind in camp. 4 climbers go higher with the loads. By evening, the snow hits suddenly. Not a gentle fall, but a wall. Visibility drops to a few meters. The wind screams so loud that shouts vanish in the noise. The climbers barely make it back to camp and dive into their tents. That night, the storm reaches its peak. The tents groan under the wind's assault. Snow buries the entrances. No one sleeps. They just listen as the mountain roars around them. Then comes the sound. Deep, growing, like a train approaching. An avalanche. It sweeps above the main camp, but catches 3 tents on the edge. Tons of snow hit in seconds, tearing them away. People inside scramble out, some in sleeping bags, some barefoot. Screams, chaos, blinding white. When the storm finally breaks, the team regroups. They count what's left. Food, gear, 3 lost tents. No one is dead. A miracle. But their spirit is shattered. Carter sits inside one of the surviving tents, silent. Then he speaks, quietly but firmly. "I'm done. This is madness." Willie tries to argue, but Carter cuts him off. "You don't listen to warnings. You're risking lives for your dream. I won't be part of that." The next morning, Adams Carter, a man who's seen dozens of expeditions, a legend of American mountaineering, heads down the mountain and leaves the team. The mountain has taken its first prize, not a life, but their will. After Carter's departure, the team falls silent for 2 days. They fix what they can, dry gear, wait out the weather, but more than anything, they gather what's left of their will. Because up here, without willpower, nothing else matters. On the 1st of September, 1976, 3 climbers begin their final push. John Roskelley, Louis Reichart, and Nanda Devi. The rest stay behind, some too weak, some too exhausted. Willie doesn't go. For the first time in the entire expedition, he remains below, watching his daughter climb toward the summit he's dreamed of for 27 years. The ascent begins at 4 in the morning. It's still dark, the world lit only by the beams of their headlamps cutting through the night. Ice crunches underfoot, metal tools clink against rock. The jumars, those small rope clamps, rasp quietly with every pull upward. It's the only sound besides breathing. Nanda takes the rear. The pace is relentless. Ross Kelly sets it hard, without mercy. Every 100 meters they pause, one sip of water, then onward. The slope steepens. In places it's nearly vertical. They swing ice axes, carving steps into the frozen face. By midday they're at 6,900 meters. Nanda is gasping for air. Every breath feels like trying to inhale through a straw. Her lungs burn, her head spins. She stops, leans on her axe, eyes closed. Louis Reichart turns, sees her falter. He climbs back down a few meters until he's beside her. "Hang in there," he says softly. "We're almost there." Nanda nods but doesn't open her eyes. Reichart unscrews his thermos, pours her some warm tea. "Drink slowly." She sips, feels the heat spreading inside her chest. Reichart doesn't rush her. He knows, right now, speed doesn't matter. What matters is that she keeps going. Ahead, Ross Kelly never looks back. He moves at his own rhythm, as if he's climbing alone. For him, the mountain is a duel, man against height, strength against air. No weakness, no pauses. But Reichart is different. He doesn't see Nanda as competition. He sees a person for whom this mountain means something larger than glory, and he wants her to make it. By evening, they reach 7,300 meters. This is the edge, the beginning of the death zone, where the human body stops recovering and only breaks down. Every minute here takes something you can't get back. They pitch a tiny tent on a ledge barely wide enough to hold it, squeeze inside together. Outside, wind, darkness, 30 below. Inside, 3 exhausted bodies, 3 uneven breaths. Ross Kelly lights the stove, melting snow for water. Nanda lies still, every muscle screaming to stop. But tomorrow, they'll climb again, because the summit is finally close. A night at 7,300 meters isn't sleep, it's survival. Nanda lies inside her sleeping bag, fighting for every breath. Her fingers are numb, her head pounds with pain, and her heart races so wildly it feels ready to burst from her chest. By morning, she can barely stand. Reichart looks at her, sunken eyes, bluish lips, every movement slow and heavy. The signs are clear, her body has reached its limit, but Nanda says, "I'm ready, let's keep going." Ross Kelly is already packing his gear. He doesn't comment on her condition. For him, it's simple. Everyone's responsible for their own strength. If she says she's fit to climb, then she climbs. Reichart hesitates. He's seen people at the edge before, seen them insist they're fine, only to collapse an hour later. He wants to say, "Nanda, go down. It's not worth your life." But he doesn't, because he's afraid to be the one who shatters her dream. Down below, in base camp, Willie sits inside his tent, writing a letter home. His handwriting trembles, maybe from cold, maybe from fear. "We're almost there," he writes. "Nanda's heading for the summit. She's strong, she'll make it." He believes it, or tries to, because the alternative is unbearable. Peter Lev sits nearby, eyes fixed on the mountain. The summit is hidden in clouds. He feels a knot of dread in his chest. He's known Nanda since she was a kid, saw her grow up, fall in love with the mountains. And now he knows she won't stop, even if it kills her. He turns toward Willie, wanting to say something. A warning, maybe, or a plea. But Willie's look stops him cold. It's the look of a father who's built his entire life around his daughter's dream, and can no longer afford doubt. Up at 7,300 meters, the weather turns again. The wind strengthens, visibility fades. Ross Kelly suggests waiting. "Let's give it a day. If it doesn't clear, we head down." Nanda agrees. The delay feels like mercy. Her body is begging for rest. They crawl back into the tent, seal the entrance against the wind, try to stay warm. But rest at this altitude is an illusion. The body doesn't recover here. It just breaks down a little slower. Every hour in the death zone is an hour stolen from life. Reichart keeps checking Nanda's pulse. It's racing. Her breathing is shallow. She says she's fine. Her body says otherwise. On the second evening up high, Nanda sits by the tent's opening, staring at the clouds below. They look like an ocean. endless, white, silent. She thinks about her name, about how her father gave it to her, about how every step of her life has led to this moment. And then, a fleeting thought, what if I don't make it? What if the mountain wins? But she forces it away, because up here, doubt isn't just dangerous, it's fatal. September 7th, 1976. Morning at 7,300 meters begins in silence. Too much silence. Reichardt wakes first, glances around the tent. Kelly is already up, sitting in the corner, checking his gear. Nanda is still in her sleeping bag, motionless. Reichardt crawls closer. One look at her face, and his stomach drops. Her skin is swollen, pale, almost waxy. Her lips are tinged purple. This isn't exhaustion, it's altitude sickness, acute, advanced, cerebral edema, maybe pulmonary too, maybe both. Nanda, he whispers. Her eyes open slowly, as if through water. She looks at him, unfocused, dazed. Tries to smile. I'm fine, just tired. Reichardt shakes his head. No, you're not fine. We're going down, now. Kelly steps over, takes one look, and doesn't argue. He starts packing. No words left to say, just action. They help Nanda out of her sleeping bag. She gets to her feet, wavering, catching the side of the tent for balance. Her breathing is fast and shallow, like she's sprinted a marathon. But she's standing. She's trying. Give me a minute, she says. I'll be okay. Reichardt helps her into her jacket, clips her harness. Her hands shake so badly she can't do it herself. But she's still forcing a smile, still pretending she can handle it. They step outside. The wind slams into them, snow stings their faces. Kelly leads the way down, cutting steps into the ice. Reichardt stays beside Nanda, guiding her, catching her if she slips. They move slowly, 1 meter at a time. Nanda moves like a machine now, driven only by will, one foot, then the other. Grip the rope, breathe, just breathe. After an hour, she stops, standing still, leaning on her axe, staring down the slope. Then she turns to Reichardt. Check my pulse, she says softly. He pulls off a glove, presses 2 fingers to her wrist. Her heart is pounding. Over 140 beats a minute. It's critical. Nanda, stay with me. We're almost there, he tells her, knowing it's a lie. Safe altitude is still 1,000 meters below. She holds his gaze. Something in her eyes shifts. The fear fades. What's left is only exhaustion and acceptance. I'm dying, she says quietly. No panic, just truth. Reichardt grabs her shoulders. No, you're not. We'll get you down. But she doesn't hear him anymore. She takes one more step, and her legs give out. Her body collapses forward, as if every string holding her together has finally snapped. Reichardt catches her, lowers her into the snow. Kelly scrambles back up, and together they roll her onto her back. They check for breath, faint, ragged, pulse, barely there. The mountain has taken her. Reichardt and Kelly work on Nanda for nearly an hour, mouth to mouth, chest compressions, trying to warm her body. But at 7,300 meters, medicine means nothing. Once the body gives up, there's no bringing it back. They sit beside her, not speaking, not knowing what to do. Bring her down? Impossible. 2 exhausted men can't haul dead weight over vertical ice. Leave her here? There's no other choice. Kelly descends first. He radios the news to base camp. Down below, Willie hears the words and freezes. He doesn't shout, doesn't cry, just sets the radio down and stares at nothing. Craig comes over, wanting to put a hand on his father's shoulder, but Willie pulls away. He stands, steps out of the tent, and walks to the edge of camp. There he stands alone, staring toward the summit veiled in cloud. His daughter is up there now, the girl he named after the mountain, the girl who spent her whole life climbing toward this moment. He doesn't cry, the tears will come later. Right now, there's only emptiness. The next day, Reichardt climbs back to Nanda's body. Peter Lev goes with him. They bring a sleeping bag, wrap her carefully inside. It's not a coffin, but it's the best they can do up here. They carry her to the edge of the slope, where the mountain drops away for hundreds of meters. They stop and stand in silence. No prayers, no words, just wind. Lev looks at the wrapped form and thinks of the little girl he once knew, running through mountain trails, laughing, dreaming. And now, she's here. Forever. They give a gentle push. The body slides over the snow, gathers speed, and disappears into the white. A few seconds, and she's gone. The mountain has taken her back. Reichard and Lev stand at the edge, looking down. Snow already begins to fall, soft and steady, erasing their footprints. In a few days, there will be no sign anyone was ever here. The mountain swallows everything. That evening, the whole team gathers in base camp. No one speaks, everyone lost somewhere inside their own thoughts. Willie sits apart, writing in a small notebook. Craig approaches, but his father shakes his head. "Leave me." The Indian officers light incense, murmur a few Sanskrit prayers. A gesture of respect, a way to make sense of the senseless. Ross Kelly sits outside his tent, staring into the fire. He doesn't feel guilt. He knows he did everything he could, but inside, there's only emptiness. He once thought the summit meant victory. Now he understands. Sometimes the summit is the price. That night, the wind rises again. It howls across the camp, like the mountain is trying to speak. But no one can understand its language. Only the snow keeps falling, softly, endlessly, covering everything. The tracks, the memories, the pain. The news of Nanda Devi's death reaches America a few days later. Headlines read, "Tragedy in the Himalayas. Anne Sold's daughter dies on the mountain that bears her name." Journalists write about dreams, destiny, and the fatal bond between a name and a peak. The New York Times runs a story with her photograph, young, smiling, an ice axe in hand. The article turns her life into poetry. She died chasing her dream on the slopes of the mountain she was named after. But those who knew her best feel a deep bitterness reading those words. This wasn't romance. It was a tragedy, one that didn't have to happen. If only someone had stopped her. If only she had stopped herself. 2 weeks later, the expedition returns to the States. Willie steps off the plane, gray, hollow, eyes empty. Reporters surround him, shouting questions. He answers in short, mechanical phrases. But in one interview, he says something that people will remember. Nanda has gone back to where she came from. The mountain called her, and she answered. This isn't tragedy. It's the circle coming full. People listen and don't know what to feel. Is this grief speaking, or does he truly believe it? Psychologists later call it a defense mechanism, a way to find meaning in the meaningless. But Willie keeps going. He starts speaking at climbing gatherings, telling stories about his daughter. With each talk, his tone becomes more spiritual, more mystical. He speaks of a bond between Nanda and the mountain, of fate and return, of how her death wasn't an accident, but destiny. Some listen with sympathy, others uneasily. Craig, his son, tries to pull him back. "Dad, it was altitude sickness. That's not fate, it's physiology." But Willie doesn't hear him. He's built a story that gives her death purpose. And it's the only thing keeping him alive. Nanda Devi becomes legend. The mountain that claimed the girl who shared its name. Climbers speak of it with a kind of reverent superstition. Locals in the valley nod knowingly. We warn them. The mountain doesn't release those who bear its name. The Indian government closes access to Nanda Devi for several more years. Officially, to protect the fragile ecosystem. Unofficially, because the mountain has become too heavy a symbol to touch. Stories spread of people who've seen her ghost on the slopes, of voices carried by the wind. Myths, of course. But in the mountains, myths last longer than truth. And so, the legend grows. Because every legend, as we know, begins with a sacrifice. 3 years pass slowly. Willie tries to move on, but every single day is a reminder of what he lost. He keeps teaching mountaineering, leading groups up into the mountains. His friends say the work helps him cope. The truth is, he just doesn't know how to live any other way. The mountains are all he has left. March 1979. Willie is leading a group of students up Mount Rainier in Washington State. It's a training climb, nothing complicated. A route he's done dozens of times. The weather's steady, the conditions are good, but mountains are never predictable. Never. At about 3,000 meters, the group stops for a break. Willie goes ahead to check the safety of the next section. Then, crack. That sound every climber knows and dreads. An avalanche. It comes from above, fast, unstoppable. Willie doesn't even have time to shout. Within seconds, the snow engulfs him. The students watch in horror as their instructor disappears into the white rush. The rescue operation lasts for hours. They find his body by evening. Willie unsold, the man who spent his whole life in the mountains, dies in an avalanche. He's 59 years old, exactly 3 years after his daughter's death. The news spreads quickly through the climbing community. Some say it's a curse. The father gave his daughter the name of a mountain, and the mountain took them both. The rational ones call it coincidence, a tragic accident. But up in the mountains, people tend to believe in signs. The unsold family shuts themselves off from the press. Craig refuses interviews. Nanda's mother leaves town. They don't want their story turned into a headline. But it's too late. The story of Nanda and Willie becomes part of mountaineering legend. Adams Carter, the one who left the expedition after the avalanche, gives a single interview. The journalist asks, "What do you think happened to the unsold family?" Carter stays silent for a long time. Then he says quietly, but clearly, "The mountain took its own. Willie gave his daughter the name Nanda Devi. It wasn't a blessing, it was a promise. And when that promise came due, the mountain demanded payment. First the daughter, then the father." The journalist tries to follow up, but Carter cuts him off. "I don't go to the Himalayas anymore," he says. "And I wouldn't recommend anyone else go either." Nanda Devi remains closed to climbers until the early 2000s. When access finally reopens, mountaineers return. But the mountain has changed. The climate, the glaciers, the routes. Everything is harder now, and deadlier. Somewhere on the slope, more than 7,000 meters above sea level, under layers of snow, lies the body of Nanda Devi unsold. No one knows exactly where. The mountain keeps its secrets, and those who carried its name have become part of that mystery. Forever. Today, Nanda Devi is once again wrapped in mist. The summit is hidden, just like it was that day in 1949, when Willie Unsold first laid eyes on it. The mountain stands unchanged, eternal, indifferent to human stories. There are barely any climbs here now. The Indian government keeps the area tightly restricted. Officially, it's to protect the environment. But locals tell a different story. The mountain doesn't like to be disturbed. It's already taken what it wanted. And it's best not to remind it of people. In 2005, a team of researchers discovers an old backpack at around 6,800 meters. Inside is a worn notebook, sealed in a waterproof pouch. Faded letters on the cover read, "Nanda Devi Unsold," a diary. The pages are yellowed, the ink smudged in places, but the words are still legible. The entries are brief. Every sentence written at altitude costs effort. The last one is dated September 6th, 1976, the day before she died. "I'm more exhausted than I've ever been. My body won't obey. But I'm here, on the mountain whose name I carry. And it's a strange feeling, not fear, but peace. As if I've finally come to where I'm meant to be. I'm not afraid to die here. If the mountain accepts me, then I'm home." Those words are later published in a climbing magazine. Some read them as a farewell, others as a love letter, and some believe it's proof that Nanda knew. She knew she wouldn't return. Psychologists study the entry, searching for signs of depression or altitude psychosis, but they find only acceptance, calm, almost serene. As if she had made her choice long before her heart stopped beating. Craig Unsold, her brother, reads the diary and weeps for the first time in 30 years. He realizes his sister wasn't a victim. She knew the risks, she knew the cost, and she went anyway, because for her, there was no other path. Today, in the village of Lada, at the foot of Nanda Devi, stands a small memorial, a simple stone with a plaque that reads, "In memory of Nanda Devi Unsold, 1954 to 1976. She returned to the mountain that bore her name." Locals sometimes leave flowers there, not because they knew her, but because she has become part of this place, part of a myth that's lived here for centuries. The summit of Nanda Devi remains veiled in clouds. The wind howls across the slopes. The snow falls softly, year after year. Somewhere up there, beneath layers of ice, lies the body of the girl named after a goddess. Did the mountain take her? Or did she simply return to where her soul was born? There's no answer, only silence, and the echo of a name that now belongs to the peak. Forever. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel.